my name's Amanda and this is my channel, Amanda Reads. Today we are here to do my very first book haul. Unfortunately, I've had a teensy bit of a reading slump this month. I really haven't gotten too much done, so I don't have many book reviews to film for you guys. But I have been a very bad person in the sense that I have bought a lot of books this month. A lot of books. So, let's get started. I want to show you guys everything I bought and maybe get your opinions on what I should start reading, what I should look into more. So first, I went to the Strand. I don't know how many of you frequent New York City, but the Strand is this really huge bookstore in Union Square or near Union Square, and they have everything. They're all used. You can get some really cheap stuff here. You can also get sale books that are like $2 cheaper than the Barnes & Noble books. I like to pretend they're a lot cheaper because it makes me feel better about buying them all. But it's a really great place. You should check it out. They have a lot of awesome stuff. So I went there twice this month. On my first trip there, I picked up Deborah Harkness's A Discovery of Witches. I've heard a lot about this series as a whole. I've heard Deborah Harkness is a brilliant writer with great characters and great scenes. I don't know too much about this series. I know it's a fantasy. I had a little bit of a fantasy slump at the beginning of the month. I'm hoping this will get me back into it because I love fantasy. It's my favorite genre. Very excited to read this. I also picked up Red Queen at the Strand by Victoria Aveyard. You guys have been giving this book a lot of buzz on BookTube as of late. I, again, don't really know what this one's about. I kind of like going into books not knowing what they're about. It makes me enjoy them more because I'm not really expecting anything. No expectations for this. I read a little bit about the back cover. I'm pretty excited to read this one as well, and it's a beautiful hardcover, which I really love. Also at the Strand, I picked up Ink Death by Cornelia Funk. Cornelia Funk, I still don't know how to say her name. I've read her book since I was like 12, still can't pronounce it. I don't know who's read Inkheart, but this is the third in the Inkheart trilogy. Inkheart is awesome. It's about this girl. Her father can read characters out of books and read people into books. Totally by accident. He has no idea how to control this ability. So these characters that he read out of the book, Inkheart, they want to go back to their fictional world. He has no idea how to transport them back there, but they kidnap him and his daughter, and they're like, you need to get us back into this world. She might also have this ability. I honestly don't remember. I have to reread this series. I never finished it, so now I have all three, and I'm going to finish it. Hooray. Rebel Belle is another book that I picked up while I was at the Strand this month. I've also heard a lot about this one on BookTube, and I know that I think the sequel is coming out soon, if it's not out already. And it's about a girl with magical powers, as most books that I read are. I've heard this one's very light and comical, which I could use because I've been reading a lot of dark, heavy stuff lately. I think this is going to be a good break from that, so I really can't wait to get into this one. I also picked up Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon. This is kind of considered a classic among some people. I've heard that I should read Toni Morrison. I'm really into a lot of modernist writers, and I've been told a million times this is the book to read by her. I picked up another one of her novels as well, which I'll show you guys later on, but I'm really pumped for this. I've heard she's a brilliant writer. I skimmed the book a little bit. The sentences look on point. Finally, on my first trip to the Strand, the last book I picked up is Cain by Jose Saramago. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is basically a book of short stories. They're retellings of Old Testament stories. I love religious stuff like that. I love things that question the foundations of religion, especially Catholicism. I don't want to get into too much of a religious ramble on BookTube, but I do write a lot of stories like this, so I'm excited to use this in guiding my own writing. Cannot wait to see how this one goes. Alright, so after my mischievous journey to the Strand, I also visited Housing Works. This is another thrift store in Manhattan. They have really great book selections. They're usually anywhere between $2 and $5, and they're actually in really good shape. Like, usually you go to thrift stores and they have ripped up, torn up books no one's ever heard of, no one cares about. Not this place. They actually had half that Harry Potter series last time I was there. They have very popular books, very interesting authors, and they're all in really great shape. So I picked up a bunch of stuff there. Starting with Jeanette Wall's The Silver Star. I've heard about this one a lot because I've heard about The Glass Castle a lot. She's a great writer. I actually started reading this one. I'm like a quarter of the way through. And I'm really enjoying it. It's about these two sisters. Their mother wants to be an actress. She's always out on the road, dragging them from one city to the next. One day she goes a little bit kooky and she kind of just disappears, so they're left on their own and they need to figure out how to survive. I really enjoyed this book so far. The characters are really great, the writing style is awesome. I might do a book review on this one because it's really, really great. So definitely recommend picking this up. I also got from Housing Works The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair by Joel Dicker. I have seen this book a lot. I've recognized the cover, but I never really gave any thought to it or picked it up to look at it. Apparently it's a mystery novel. It's about a 15-year-old girl who goes missing, and that narrative is kind of intertwined with the narrative of this novelist who I think might be the one who discovers what happened to her. I haven't read it yet, so I'm not sure if that's exactly where this goes, but that seems to be the direction it's headed in. I also picked up The Lovely Bones, a nice hardcover edition of it, for like $2. I have never read this book. So many people read this book when I was like 12 years old. I'm like 10 years late to this party. That is so beyond fashionably late, it's not even funny. But I am very, very pumped to read this. I know it's about someone who dies, either she commits suicide or is murdered. See, I don't even really know much about this book, except that it got a lot of hype a couple years ago. For $2, I also picked up Amsterdam by Ian McEwan. I've heard a ton of things about Ian McEwan. Unfortunately, I've never been able to pick up one of his books, but you guys have probably heard of him. He's written Atonement, Saturday. He has more popular books than this one. I've never heard of this one before, but I figured $2, he's supposed to be an awesome writer. Might as well check it out. For the price, definitely worth it. And finally, I picked up a nicer version than I had of Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I actually went to describe this book to you guys and realized that I don't remember what this book is about. No idea. I know that a kid goes up into space and there's a lot of homoeroticism, even though this guy is unfortunately a homophobe. Pretty much all I remember about this book. It's a great synopsis, right? So I guess it's a good thing I picked up this copy because I am going to have to do some rereading very, very soon. And finally, I went to the Strand one more time this month because the first time wasn't bad enough. Damn it, Amanda, stop buying books. I picked up Jazz by Toni Morrison, another Toni Morrison book that I've been told to read. It was only $6. I figured why not. I believe it's about the Jazz Age, obviously. So, very, very pumped. Loved that time period. I also picked up Rumble by Ellen Hopkins. I don't know if you guys have read Ellen Hopkins. She's brilliant, amazing. Go get Crank, go get Impulse. They're awesome. Most of them are about mental disorders or some form of mental illness. I really can't figure out what this one's about. It says something about him losing faith in people. I don't really know. Gonna find out though. Very excited. Should be very angsty and delicious. So, one of the very great things about Ellen Hopkins is that she writes in verse, which is so cool. Do you see it? Do you see it? How awesome is that? Picked up 13 Reasons Why at the Strand as well by Jay Asher. I have, again, heard a lot about this book and never picked it up because some of the things I heard were pretty negative. But I always stare at it and I'm always like, I should really give it a shot and judge it for myself. So I'm finally going to do that. Eventually I will get to this book and I will be judging it for myself this time. The last two books that I picked up were The Reptile Room and The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket. These are number 2 and 3 in a series of unfortunate events. I am so excited to continue on with this. I know that I didn't finish up my readathon, but I did end up reading the first book in the series for the readathon. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I did have some qualms with it, but overall, really, really into it. So, I'm gonna finish up the series. That being said, I am on a book ban. I am not allowed to buy books anymore unless it continues a series that I'm currently reading because that's just cruelty. I can't stop myself from finishing a series of books. That's just inhumane. But, other than that, I am cutting myself off. I will not be doing a book haul for a while because I will not be buying books for a while. You heard it first, BookTube.